Hi, how you doing? This is David Dinger. I'm a strategic communications major that just retired from the Army. My next position, assuming that my 180-day waiver will get approved, will be the Director of Strategic Communications for the U.S. Air Force Air University, which covers training, doctrine, and education, minus the Air Force Academy for the entire Air Force. So Logan and I were assigned a case study about Owlbus. What I particularly like about this case study is that it's a government project directed at the improvement of people's lives. Logan is an instructor teaching advanced placement classes in high school and is pursuing his media management degree focusing on social media in order to better provide opportunities and learning for his students. I come from the government sector where I worked in strategic communications for a period of time. And my focus there was diplomacy and military operations for brand understanding and, information operations during non-conflict and conflict operations. The focus on so many marketing classes and case studies for good reason involves e-commerce, which is about sales and profit, of course. In this particular case, the marketing is directed at providing an optimized service for citizens. Benefit, which is a great departure from profit being the motivation. So Logan and I were very happy to get this topic. Our purpose is to discuss a case study that really is a unique and practical application of social media analytics by crowdsourcing a rather large data set and applying scientific methods to create a system that meets multiple objectives for citizens of the city. We're aiming at providing a deeper understanding of how users approach their problems creatively and pragmatically. While the problem is one many cities face, the City of Seoul's situation is constrained by an incredible dense population with little space and enormous public transportation needs. I'll start by discussing the background of the problems and issues surrounding the challenge. Every problem has its needs and the requirements of the Seoul Metropolitan Government SMG on this particular problem were simple, but they're very massive. I'll close by laying out the approach the SMG took. Logan will pick up the discussion, discussing the solution first, and then he'll look at what substantial impact the SMG's decisions and positive outcomes and fiscal savings and safety they achieved. Logan will then finish out by providing a few links that you can follow up and learn more about this case, which is a truly interesting case. In cities around the world, public transportation is limited late at night after buses and subways have stopped running for the day. Workers or small business owners returning home late after shifts, drivers for hire who work night shifts, students who are studying late, and people who leave for work very early in the morning, such as sanitation workers, all require cost-effective public transportation that operates outside standard business hours. Seoul, South Korea, a city of nearly 10 million during the time this case took place, identified the need to provide their citizens with night transportation. Since subway line opened in their first subway line opened in 1974, and then through the transformation reform they've carried out in 2004, to update the city's public transportation, the SMG has steadily introduced measures to include greater convenience and better mobility of citizens while facing challenges of a large, dense population with little room for bus parking and a stretched fleet of 7,000 buses covering over 400 routes. The city wanted to focus on the fiscal and safety concerns of those low-income workers and students returning home after overnight jobs or studying, as well as safety for those workers who are going to work early in the morning. Building upon an idea proposed by a Seoul citizen, the Seoul Metropolitan Government started a trial operation of an owl bus on 2013 along two different routes. In September 13, a couple months later, more routes were added, and as of June of 16, a total of 47 owl buses are now operated along 8 routes, running every 30 to 50 minutes between midnight and 5 a.m. So we've identified the signal for the demand of change or implementation of a new solution in no public transportation solution for night travel. There are three primary needs of the citizens. First, students and workers, such as sanitary workers or small business owners who return home late at night, as we've identified before, found it hard to benefit from the pre-existing system. And I'll tell you, the pre-existing system was really for-hire taxis and some for-hire buses that ran certain routes but at a larger cost. And most of these workers suffer from poor working conditions and low salaries, yet they still had to pay the late night extra charge when taking taxis or buses to return home. During late night dawn hours, there are far less available taxis than people who are trying to hail in cab. There's a huge supply and demand issue during this time period. So illegal operations are prevalent by taxi drivers demanding extra fares, causing serious inconvenience to citizens. Additionally, there's practical limitations in controlling these higher fares or irregularities. First, there's a shortage of police officers responsible for preventing these violations. Second, and even if police catch an offender red-handed, it's difficult to obtain evidence to prove that the driver's act of refusing or demanding illegal fares. So there's no way to prove that this is going on, and so there's large problems in price gouging in the overnight time period. So Seoul has been transforming into a global city with just 50 years. Is emerging as prime location for a global economy. And over those last 50 years, from really the end of the Korean War till today, which is a little bit longer, the city's industrial, economic, and cultural activities have expanded significantly in size and scope. The citizens reached a consensus and need for a bus service that operates from midnight to dawn. It's also considered that the advanced nations such as Germany and UK already have run such systems and to promote, but not so much about the crowding effect or the supply and demand issue, but it's really for the safety of the citizens and then their right to mobility at different times. The objectives of this service are threefold. Number one, to improve convenience for those who take public transportation after midnight. Number two, to lessen the financial burdens on the economically disadvantaged, such as self-employed business owners, students, and lower wage grade workers. And third, address citizens' everyday life concerns by customizing policy measures and using the big data technology that's available today. The problem lended itself to a transshipment optimization problem. The hard constraints being bus availability due to parking and overall costs. The cost here is like, will the citizens save money, not necessarily the bus cost. And use and the maintenance of the bus themselves. The variables focus on maximizing payload or people moved, and reducing nodes or pickup points, and reducing bus numbers. Safety is always a factor, but the increased use of buses was assumed to account for an increased safety, so that was not necessarily considered in the direct equation. Seoul uses citizens' late night calls and texts to plan routes for new bus service. The telecom company provided the government with anonymous phone data, which officials use to determine bus routes of most heavily trafficked between midnight and 5 a.m. when the city's metros are closed, using a geographical locators. By implementing more affordable means of nighttime transportation, Seoul saved citizens about $12 million in taxi fares over 3 years, which is an incredible savings for those low-income workers. The Seoul Metropolitan Government operated 120 Dasan call centers and the official blog to better listen to the voice of the citizens and develop various policies, measures based on information collected through these channels. Along the way, an opinion was received that late night taxi service is not only difficult to use, but also imposes heavy financial burdens on the user. On the site survey conducted about 6 months from October 12 on found it necessary to operate a late night bus service, and that was really the turning point. As a result, starting in April 19, 2013, the city government began the 2 pilot buses. For 3 months following the launch of the test operations, the service was extremely well received by about 220,000 people, making it justifiable to raise the number of service routes and continue the program. 7 new lines were determined by taking into consideration the heavy concentration of people on the move during late hours And according to the SMG, conducted on-site research and they analyzed late-night mobile phone call volumes collected by Korean Telecom to construct a radial-shaped network linking outer districts of the city with the hub areas such as Yongo and Gwangwonmun. Also, the brand name Owlbus was chosen by the government through a public contest held in June with the letter N in the bus number denoting night bus or N night. The service began its full operation in September 16th, 2014. With news regarding the late bus spreading over SNS channels, citizens volunteer suggested the name to late night bus. Thus, the city government invited public ideas and named the service. As a result, the brand name Owlbus and N, late night, and the characters portraying owl operators operating the bus were selected. The buses also looked like actual owls as well, and that kind of led to it. These symbols have been used to mark bus stop signs, bus routes, and numbers distinguishing late night buses from ordinary ones. The LED panel attached to the front and sides of the bus to help passengers to easily recognize, even in the dark, from the distance. So every vehicle is fitted with a device to prevent it from exceeding 70 kilometers per hour, protect drivers from possible attacks of drunken, aggressive, or nefarious characters. And additionally, the network of emergency contacts was established with nearby police stations to swiftly respond in case there's any emergency.
Hello everyone, this is Logan Horton. As most of you know, I'm an AP history teacher. Additionally, I do work in the esports industry. As the service was the first of its kind, talking about the Owlbus case study, in Korea, policymakers really struggled on several big tasks, and the issues were the routes, efficient operation, and passenger safety and convenience. Now, the ability for KT to really look through and decide on where these buses should be going is they analyzed call data, and they saw these heat maps essentially around the city of what was going on, where people were calling from, where people were trying to get these rides. And so the number of passengers who get on and off at each bus stop is related to that heavy call volume in the region and connected the dots to make the most logical routes. As intervals between buses grew longer and longer distance routes, they introduced simultaneous dispatching system, which vehicles departed simultaneously from both ends of the bus line, thereby minimizing the gap in intervals between different directions. Passengers could also easily transfer at major intersections for different routes, and intervals were optimized to 30 to 40 minutes in consideration for demand and frequency. The service also provided citizens with real-time operation information, which is incredibly convenient. Anyone who wants to take the Owl bus can check the arrival time and bus location in advance through the website or even smartphone apps. In the meantime, the service operates in late night safety measures because that's critical to protecting citizens. Besides protective partitions and speeding prevention devices, it was made mandatory to inspect the vehicles before driving, and all drivers had to prove qualifications, additionally looking over the vehicle before leaving. Here we observe the impact of Owlbus. It's safe and affordable. The number of Owlbus passengers are on the rise. A total of over 1.5 million people took the bus from September of 2009 to June of 2013, making the daily average passenger stand around 7,000. As for the economic aspects, passengers are expected to save almost 6,000 won. The Owl bus only charges 1850 per trip, while tax fares are around 8,000 won. So it's incredible savings here. Given that most of the passengers are students, self-employed small business owners, or workers, The service is really expected to help stabilize their finances. Notably, safe returning home service provided in cooperation with nearby police stations reinforce the safety aspect of this. This also allows for the government to pay back tens of thousands of wands in residential districts outside the city, and now they can really redistribute that back into those lower income areas and help facilitate, economic growth here. As of 2013, the estimate is that over 14.1 billion worth of economic benefits have been redistributed back into those areas. As expected, Owlbus allows for this integration of culture and IT technologies, especially in a very rapidly growing city. It allows for people to really indulge in late night activities such as movies, city tours, and shopping. The buses are installed with a Wi-Fi network, allowing for communication industry to really facilitate growth in their market as well. And so it really improves the quality of urban life. As one can expect with a project like this that is so successful and has gained such momentum, future endeavors for South Korea include replicating this system in additional cities and distributing a manual to other local governments to benchmark this idea. As residents of other cities express their interests, we'll see those beginning to pop up more and more. Additionally, many cities directly outside of Seoul are now integrating this system to also help with this growing demand for a reasonable transportation service at night.